Welcome to the Preppin Patriots podcast.
Oh, what is up, everybody? Let's try this again. Let's try this again.
That sounds much better.
Okay.
Much better.
For any of you who just watched what happened 10 minutes ago, was a disaster. But you know what? We had backups. We had backup systems. So
JT the Prepper.
JT the Prepper. 2 is 1 and 1 is none. I'm telling you. It's the reason why I prep. Of course, most preppers don't carry spare audio interfaces in their kits.
No.
But I
do, so you're good.
But I do. Sorry. So yeah, we're late today. But what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Preppin Patriots podcast.
Welcome.
Episode.
Can you believe it's March already? March 3rd.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's stinking crazy.
Yeah.
March 3rd.
Yeah, what episode is this? Let's see.
Well, 14, 15-ish. I don't know, give or take an episode or two. We got 1 or 2 in the backlog that still need a couple edits done, but
yeah,
that's okay. But we haven't been podcasting the last, week and a half or so. I had some family stuff going on that prohibited me from podcasting and doing anything. And we're also getting ready to go on a trip. And Cameron's getting ready to go on the same trip.
Yes. Cannot wait to go on this trip.
Which is
tell where we're going?
Mexico?
I think we should.
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah.
Mexico?
We're going to Cancun.
Going to Cancun.
Cancun's pretty large. I think there's a lot of places.
Well, yeah, even if we said exactly where we're going, I mean,
yeah,
it's fine. Anybody who wants to make the drive down to Cancun to come see us, yeah, you can let us know. But in any case, yeah, we're in episode 14 or 15 or it's something. But we're titling this.
Yeah, I think it's 14.
14? Yeah, I think it's 14. But this episode, we're going to talk from Bugout bags to boarding passes. The Ultimate Prepper's Travel Guide. Because Cameron and I are getting ready to leave. I'm leaving Sunday. Are you leaving Sunday too? Yeah, I think we're both.
I am. Yep.
Both flying out Sunday. And the question came up, at least with my wife, because we have a young daughter. She's staying here. And she's like, well, what if something happens while we're gone? You know, what if the solar flare comes? Or what if Russia launches nukes or whatever? Which is a valid question. Gets you to think like, yeah, I mean, as preppers, we prepare for things, but, you know, we also don't want to put ourselves, be hermits and never go anywhere out of fear that the world's going to end tomorrow. Like, we want to live lives and go on vacations and things like that. But it does. Wow, that was weird.
Well, wrap it up.
Anyway, we're wrapping it up. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time. But no, it raised a lot of questions. Like, as preppers, we prepare for a lot of things. We prepare for disasters in World War III and all the doomsday stuff and all the natural disasters. You know, we try to prepare for as many scenarios as we can, but we also want to travel and have lives. So what do we do as preppers to prepare for traveling and, you know, still have that mindset of okay, we're getting ready to leave the country. What happens? What do we do? How do we think through, what do we do? I started thinking through that, and I was like, dude, if we have to walk home from Mexico, I'm leaving my daughter here. You're leaving your kids at grandma and grandpa or wherever you're leaving them.
2 boys. Yeah, they're staying. They're actually going to stay at my house with grandma. So that's a lot for grandma to handle.
Yeah. I mean, one of our coworkers put in, did you read that thing that he put in chat about the planes? He's like, hey, if you're scared of flying or whatever, don't read this.
Yeah. Why even post that? It's like, oh, don't look at the oncoming bus. Everybody's going to look at the oncoming bus.
I figured out which article he was talking about. Apparently there was a plane that they lost cabin pressure or something like that. Or they hit some turbulence and dropped 1,000 feet in a couple seconds, which, you know, is scary, but the plane can handle that. It's not a big deal.
It was between that one and the other article that I saw was a fire started. Somebody's battery exploded in the storage up above the storage compartment.
Oh,
started lighting things on fire, and there happened to be a firefighter on the flight, and he used some fire extinguisher. Where did you get the fire extinguisher from? But he just like opens up the compartment and starts blowing the crap out of it. You got fire extinguisher mist filling this cabin. Where's that gonna go, guys?
Yeah,
I figured that was the scenario, but there was people that had really hard time breathing. It was like 2 hours of just nonstop coughing and hacking up. They had to do emergency landing. I figured that was probably his story, but yeah, don't
if
ever.
there's a lithium batteries stink, and you can't.
Yep.
It's hard to put lithium fires out. Like that's one of those fires
look at the Teslas.
It's really difficult. You can't just put that junk out with water. You need like a special chemically whatever fire extinguisher. They probably did have it on the plane because a lot of people are carrying laptops and all that stuff with lithium ion now, and so that's probably a thing that they now do. But in any case, the point being that we're getting ready to leave on this trip, and the dude's like posting things about plane disasters, and then goes like, "Hey, if you're scared to fly, don't Okay, whatever."
The worst thing, especially, he's newer, so he doesn't know that there's a few preppers. Do you have that set to go off after so many minutes?
No, I don't. I don't know what that is or where it's coming from. Like everything is off. Here, let me
look. JT is the mastermind wizard of all our displays and streams and all that kind of stuff.
Don't say I'm the mastermind.
As you can tell in his background, you are. But look at your background. Can everybody, like, I know there's people that are on the podcast that are just listening, but we also do this on YouTube and that kind of stuff. But he went to town this past week and completely revamped his now studio. It is very slick. He's got all different cameras, different angles.
Yeah. It's over the top. It's over the top.
It's quite the studio. It's fantastic.
You can call it what it is. It's over the top.
No, it's good. Don't put yourself down. Give yourself the credit you deserve. So anyways, it's going to always, we say this every stream, but it's always going to continue to get better. I mean, we're still in the very beginning of podcasting. So
right.
These little quirks will happen until we get things like locked down. So
the production value will go up from here. It's only up from here.
It's only up. But yes, to your point, prepping for vacation, traveling, especially going outside the country. I think inside the country is the easiest. If something happens, I can get a vehicle. I know how far it's going to be. When you're a different country, got to cross borders. You've got to, whatever the case may be, a lot more difficult. And so we've got some of those things. He's got some of the items that he preps for. I've got some of the items that I prep for. But did you want to go through, I think you put together a monologue, right?
Yeah.
You want to go through that?
Yeah. I mean, I don't have to read this whole monologue word for word.
Yeah.
Or I can. It doesn't matter. I wrote it. So I did my first stab at writing a monologue, and typically, trying to be the Tucker Carlson, he reads his monologues, or the Glenn Beck's, he reads his monologues. But, anyway, about this, we're talking about how to prepare for travel, being a prepper and prepper's mindset. So I did write a monologue. Are you itching to explore new places, but hesitant to venture out into a world filled with uncertainty? Whether it's the threat of natural disasters, political turmoil, or even solar flares, it can be tough to know how to prepare for travel. But fear not, fellow wanderlusts. We're here to make sure you're ready for whatever comes your way. So let's talk about staying informed. So there's 4 things I thought of. As far as like segments or things you can think about or maybe parse this out. This is just what I thought of this afternoon. But I think one of the big things is staying informed. So before you go on any trip, you want to stay informed. And that's not like checking Twitter feeds every 5 seconds. There are better ways to keep up to date. There's travel advisories, there's local news, things that are happening on the ground. I personally I went and looked at the space weather, to see. And I did did you know that another X class just went off today?
Yes, I did see that.
I went on to...
I didn't bring it up with my wife, but I'm sure she'll listen to this afterwards.
No, I didn't bring it up with mine either. But if you go to space weather news, let me get off. Let me bring you over here. Yeah, so I read here, another X-class flare just went off today. So the Sohos and the satellites, whatever, haven't updated yet. But the one that is here that we see kind of coming at us right now, that's the one that happened, I think it was over the weekend. It's the one that happened over the weekend. That's kind of like, it's this little thing off here. We get kind of the glancing blow on that. Then it looks like another one went off not Earth face directing. So, but there is one. I'm going to come on here tomorrow to see. They did say it's Earth facing, and they did say it did produce a CME. So tomorrow we'll know a little bit more details of what's that. But they only categorize it as an X2.
Okay.
So
it's usually like the X8 is when we start to.
Yeah, but we just had that other X2 or X3 that happened last week, and there was warnings out about, hey, you could see isolated electrical issues. This isn't the planet killer, but you could see some isolated stuff. Well, we come back on Wednesday, which probably when this thing's going to arrive and we're in our plane, and then, then what happens? Yeah. Again, I'm not telling my wife. But
probably best.
It gets to the point of, when you have a plan, or when you, that's part of staying informed. Like looking at, there's also a news article that I saw about, that's just space weather, but I read another article today about, Russia surrounds Ukraine, Ukraine's besieged Bakhmut. And I've been hearing a lot about Bakhmut lately. So reading this story going, okay, is there a possibility he launches nukes in the next couple of days? Probably not. So I probably shouldn't have to worry about that while we're gone, but who knows? So it's part of staying informed. I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree. I tend to look at the general area that we're going to and look at news in that area, any kind of crime rates, any kind of issues that are going on at that time. And I look for larger events that happen in the area. So if there's closings, if there's certain roads that are closed, because one of the things that I always do, and I'm sure you'll get into this, but I always make copies of all of our documents, that kind of stuff. But the second thing I always do is find out where the embassy is. A lot of people go traveling and there really is no thought process about where you're going. You just want to show up and eat and drink and have a good time and fly back. But there's been a few movies that I've watched out there in the past that really got me to think like, knowing where the embassies are is probably an important thing. If you really need to get there to stay safe, where would you go? So,
I mean, you brought that up in the pre-show. You were showing a map. I'm like, what is that? You're like, do you know where the embassy is? I mean, I'm thinking like, we're just going to Mexico, for crying out loud. Do I need to know where the American embassy is in Mexico? Well, probably.
With a lot of things going on. I mean, just think about all the other current events with Russia and their embassies over there and people trying to get out of the country as fast as possible with the looms of World War III and Ukraine embassy, that kind of stuff. I mean, it's good to know where those embassies are if you need to get to a safe spot. I'd want to rely on my military force that's there to help protect us than no protection at all. So,
I mean, you make a good point. I mean, you make valid points. I mean,
I'll look up the name of the movie for you to watch later, maybe when you're on the plane or something.
Oh boy. Oh boy. I did watch side conversation. I did watch Don't Look Up. You'd recommended Don't Look Up to me. Now,
so good, isn't it?
I didn't realize it was the format of that movie was weird in my opinion because it was almost like mockery, like Jonah Hill playing the president's son and he's the chief of staff and doing like, so it was entertaining. I liked it, but it really, I started to see as I watched it and then I thought about it like, oh my gosh, if you really think about that movie and what's going on and how like the government just goes, And then how, like, when truth comes out, some corporation comes in and goes, oh, but we could do this with, like, oh, it was like the parallels that it drew was so
Spot
good.
on.
Spot
Yes.
on. So that's another
now-
conversation, but that was a great movie. I did enjoy that.
Good. I'm glad you did. Yeah. Watching that movie, I'm like, man, this is so spot on. And I could just only imagine other countries looking at the United States and looking at us and be like, what a joke.
Yeah.
These guys, the media really drives a lot of that mindset that people have today. And that show is a perfect representation of exactly that. So anyways, if you haven't seen Don't Look Up, highly recommend it.
Great.
Very good
Great
movie.
Great movie. But
So
anyway, so you just want to stay informed. Like before your trip, you want to do a little bit of research on, as preppers, we just want to do a little research on what's going on. For us, like I said, the big thing for me was, what's going on with our star, because that's the most unpredictable. Like we can't control that. So, if I looked up space weather and there's like an X10 heading our way or that just fired off, I may be thinking twice about going on this trip, even though I just paid. I mean, that's part of the flexibility part of this. I mean, you need to be flexible when it comes to your planning. And I think that's the biggest difference between, preppers as they think about, as their minds work, is how flexible they can become. They can make plans, they can do all these things, they can go on vacation, but if for some reason something comes up that might inhibit their plans, they were willing to be flexible. Like I paid, I don't know, between me and my wife, plane tickets, all that, we got some money invested in this trip. If I would have read on space weather there's an X10, we may have just canceled this trip, which is why we pay the extra money for refundable tickets. But then we would have missed out on all the camaraderie and all the fun that we would have. And then, the worst feeling that you get, like we don't go and nothing does happen. And you're like, oh gosh, and then you kick yourself for it. But you know what? I guess it's better to be safe than sorry. So that's the whole flexibility part.
Right.
Is just to be flexible with your plans. Conditions change.
Yeah. And one more piece to that. We've got interconnecting flights. So where are you landing? We're leaving our hometown to fly to Dallas. Dallas just got hit with a bunch of tornadoes and weather events, that kind of stuff. So depending on where you're going to be landing, what's the weather there? Do you need to dress appropriately if something gets shut down because of rain or snow? I mean, right now, a lot of the Northeast is getting hit with a buttload of snow. We're supposed to get 3 inches of snow tonight where I'm at.
Really?
There's like a band of snow moving up through the Northeast right now where it's like 5 to 8 inches of snow, 8 to 10 inches, something like that.
Yeah.
That's supposed to dump tonight. So that's the other thing, looking at your area. Make sure you have plans to get home if you need to get home. How are you going to do that? Are you going to be able to drive or is it too far? So just another thing to look at.
Yep. Having a plan, staying informed, being flexible. Now, this is where I struggle. This next thing, packing, right? Typically, when we go on trips, my wife does the packing. She'll pack the clothes and all that stuff. But as a prepper, we're going on a plane, so there's a limited number of things you could take on a plane. There's some things that they will allow, like, I read, because we're going technically out of the country, if you bring prescription drugs, you have to have like the doctor note or whatever to show that this is your prescription. One of the things I thought about was like, do I pack a small first aid kit? Can I bring a small first aid kit on the plane because it's got like needles and things I can jab somebody with?
Yeah, you can, minus the needles and the jabby jabs. So that is the unfortunate part, but
like, as a prepper, what do you pack? I mean, obviously, like some of the things I read is like, oh, pack some like water filtration. So what, do I throw a couple life straws on that thing?
I have my stuff here. I haven't packed it yet, but it's getting packed tonight since, we're done with work for the week. But maybe I'll have to come on and do another part of the stream, like a part 2, to show here's what I have going on the trip with me. But I do carry I carry a water straw. My wife carries a water straw in her own backpack. but I do have a medical kit and a bunch of prep items.
Yeah.
But we have basically, she has her backpack. I've got my backpack. She's got a few different things in hers. Mine has the different drugs like Tylenol, Advil, Excedrin, allergy medicine, motion sickness, all your common stuff. But I mean, I even have stuff in there for if you're hiking or something like that and you need the moleskins for the back of your feet or you're wearing out your shoes, especially if you have to walk somewhere because cars stop working or something along those lines. So
yeah. So are these carry-ons for you? Like, is this going to be in your carry-on? Okay.
So I keep all that in my backpack. And then I have a carry-on.
Okay. Because the thing about a carry-on now, when I really start thinking through the, worst case scenarios, like things happen or whatever, like, the plane has to do an emergency landing on a field or something like that. Like when I think about what I could bring or what I technically want to bring, but like, because it's a plane, there's certain things you can and can't bring on a plane. I can pack certain things into my check-in bag that I can't pack in my carry-on. So like I can pack, my multi-tool and stuff in my check bag. They allow you to transport stuff like that. But like, do I throw some freeze-dried meals in that bag in case we're like have to walk any? Like this is what you can get so overwhelmed in the thought of what to bring on a trip. Next thing you know, you're checking 17 bags in to the airport for the just in case. It's like, okay, what are the essential things I need to bring with me on a trip to be prepared? And we're specifically talking like a plane trip. Car trips are easy. That's the plane trips where you don't have access. You have limited things you can bring with you and you're going like a few thousand miles away. Mm-hmm. So that's where I'm struggling.
Yeah. And you made a good point. You're talking about putting stuff in your check bag. My wife and I, we don't do check bags. Not anymore. We used to. But we now do a full trip in one carry-on. If it's a full week, we pack accordingly. And we're really good at making it really small form factor. We can fit everything. We can fit a whole week's worth of clothes, multiple outfits, all the essentials that we need into one little carry-on. So we keep one carry-on and one backpack.
We normally do that because, in the military, they teach you how to fold clothes to put in a rucksack. So it's the whole roll method and all that stuff. I have to talk to her to see if that's the way we're planning on doing, if we're going to try to do it in one bag. But I don't know.
The main reason...
Craziness.
The main reason is because the check bags, they're an extra cost. They get lost. It's something that you're relying on.
Right.
It's just, I like having everything with me. I like having control over it. And when it's a check bag, that's not something I have to wait for, especially if you're going to an unknown airport that's in another country. Hopefully your bag gets to where it needs to go, and then you can have to wait for it. And once you grab it, now that's one more thing you have to pay to transport around. So we try to keep everything very simple, pack light, carry light, but multifunctional stuff. So it's going to last us a while.
How much,
for no matter what we pack.
Are you bringing cash?
Yep.
Okay.
So
how much cash you bringing? Is that something I can ask? No, I can ask. I don't care.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I normally bring $300 with me.
$300 cash.
Cash.
Okay.
Now, that's a lot of money where we're going. So, I can't remember the conversion rate. I think it's 5 to 1. So, a 20 is a very big tip there. So just keep that in mind. But we try to get some, your several 20s. We get our 5s and 1s. That way we've got some tips for tipping the drivers or whatever the case may be. And then we split our money and keep hers concealed. And then I'm the primary money person. So if somebody robs me, then she's got money as well as a backup.
Because there's in my mind, there's the trip money. There's the trip cash, for tips and all that stuff. And then there's the prepping cash. And I'm glad you gave a number of 300 because that's way less than what I was thinking. But I tend to overdo everything.
Yeah, you don't need to carry that much on you. I mean, for the scenarios that I've ran into, we've had people around us. We're on work trips. We're with people, that kind of stuff. People can always pull money from the cash. And you bring up a good point, though. I've had friends that have gone to the emergency rooms or doctors or hospitals or whatever because they fell and sprained an ankle or whatever the case may be. And they've actually been locked in their rooms with guards until they pay in cash and pay it in full.
Yeah, because I don't think Aetna covers down there.
No. So they will keep you under lock and key until you pay the full bill, and then they'll release you. So there's been times where our friends have had to go like, hey, you 10 people, go pull $300, your maximum amount from the ATMs. Just to get them out.
That's kind of where like my prepping cash comes in, because I'm thinking like, okay, well, if an EMP hits or something and we're having to walk across the border, I need to bribe a guard to let us come through. Here's $1,000, let us get through here. That's kind of where I'm at. Is that valid? Is it not valid? It's a bit much, you think? Bribe money.
Yeah, I mean, you can get bribe money. I mean, $100 is more than what other people are going to be paying them. So I think it's plenty.
What if I got to bribe 10 guards?
What if you get mugged and now you're out $1,500? Whatever the amount is.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if I get help, if it's a disaster scenario and someone tries to hold me up, I don't know what I would do in that situation. The whole fight or flight thing. I'm more of a, I need to take this dude out. But then again, I can't bring weapons with me, so it's just me and my jiu-jitsu that I haven't done in 10 years. That's my
biggest pain point. Yeah, that's my biggest pain point is I always have my Leatherman on me, and I can't bring that. Like every time we go on a flight, it just kills me inside that I have nothing. So rough. The one thing I do take that I can take is my tactical pen. That's the only thing that they don't, because what I do is I leave it on the pen mode, and now I'm good. It's just a pen. I have not once out of the 10 times I've been international in the last 5 years here, have I once gotten it taken.
Watch,
and it's a pen.
I'm going to bring my tactical pen and I'm going to get it taken away at security. You watch. It's going to happen to me. I'm going to bring it. And you watch it get taken away.
Do you have pre-check? TSA pre-check?
No, I don't travel that much, bro.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's the other thing. We've got TSA pre-check. Like, to me, it is a must. You only have to do it like once every 10 years or something like that.
I gotta go to the airport. I gotta make an appointment. I gotta do all that. No, that's what TSA pre-check is.
You don't go to. I know, but you don't go to the airport to get signed up for TSA pre-check. It's just like getting your carry license. Like, there's a building somewhere. You go there. You scan your fingerprints. You show them your passport. They're like, all right, thanks. And then a week later, 3 days later, they send you a code. And now you put that code into your American Airlines, Delta, whatever, that you're pre-check at all times. And so now I walk through with my belt on, my shoes on, my hat on, I put my bag through the machine. They say, thanks, have a good day. I take my bag, I walk off. I never get stopped.
It's just another way for somebody to make a buck.
Hey, but I paid like $60, I think, or something like that. It was not expensive in any way. And for the next 10 years, I get on and off real fast. I don't have to wait in the lines.
Do you have to walk through a scanner or anything?
Yeah, I still walk through the scanner. And I've had my belt and stuff on me. Just don't have your phone. My wife went through the machine one time with her phone in her back pocket. Got pulled off to the side. They have to do all their checks and like, oh, because you're a terrorist now. And they checked her fingers. Well, we found some kind of chemical on her fingers because she puts makeup on her face. Yeah. Now she's getting taken off and she has to go through all of her bags. And so that was a lesson learned. I always, every time we travel now, is your phone in the bin? She's like, yes, it's in the bin. She will never live that down.
Okay.
Because I never want to go through that again.
You have to walk through a scanner. Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's fine. Because I was going to say, if you didn't have to walk through a scanner, that's just dumb. because
No,
I could
you
pay.
still
I'm
do
a
the,
terrorist.
like-
I could pay $60 and we'll just not walk through a scanner and then go do some shenanigans.
Yeah. No, I mean, I still walk through, but I don't have to take off my shoes, my belt, my hat, my whatever. I think I do take off the hat, but I think it's just by default. I just take it off and put it in the bin. But definitely the way to go. So.
Thanks,
Anyways,
Val. Sorry, we got a comment on our Facebook. Thanks,
Say
Val.
which platform?
Facebook.
I gotta get on all these. Like, I'm on the YouTube one, so let me get on all the other stuff.
I'm on the Facebook one now. Well, I can see
I
everything.
get on Spotify.
Yeah, I can see everything right now. That's cool. But in any case, okay, so travel. Oh my gosh, my wife just commented. I hope my wife's not watching this because
Oh, she totally is.
she totally
Like
is.
I said, my
though.
wife's gonna be watching it tonight. So
I may have to change up what I say now.
no, just say it.
No, because we talk about this stuff and it freaks the girls out.
I know, ladies, just don't listen to this one for this. We're keeping you safe. That's all you got to know. Is we're here. We've got it under control. That's what I tell my wife.
We
all the
already
time.
went through the bad stuff, like the stuff that could potentially
Yeah.
happen. I'm not going to recap it because
And this stuff happens all the time. Like, it doesn't matter what scenario you're in, any possible scenario could happen, but most people don't think about it until they're ready to go traveling. They're ready to get on their flights, and they're like, what if this happens? What if this happens?
Oh, yeah.
It's not like that ever changed at all. It's always been a possibility.
That's totally my wife.
Yeah, it's. I think it's everybody.
She's like, well, have you talked to your sister about like taking Addison if we die? I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, I will text her.
Hey, she brings up a great point. We've got forms that we fill out before we leave every trip. We've got our will, our power of attorneys, our all that stuff. We've got all that lined up, but we have all of it lined up and ready to go. We get an itinerary printed out for whoever's watching our kids, so they know where we're at, when our flights go, and where we're staying, all that kind of stuff. But even for like going to the doctors, like, hey, if my kids have to go to the doctors need a signed form from whoever's watching our kid to say, hey, I'm giving this person the ability to take my kid into the doctor and sign off and get prescriptions and all that kind of stuff.
Huh. Interesting.
So, yeah.
See, I don't think about that stuff.
You got it in these days. I don't know what to say. It's
My wife thinks
annoying.
about that.
There's a lot to it.
She needs to. She's like, oh, I got to write up this list for the babysitter. I'm like, yeah, just okay. We're gone. We're literally gone for like 3 days. It's like you're talking like we're gonna be gone for 7 weeks. We're gone for 3 days.
Yeah.
The child will survive. Even if the babysitter didn't show up, the child would survive 3 days without food. It's fine. She'll be fine. Just stock the freezer with chicken nuggets. The doors lock automatically. We got 2 dogs. Like, she'll be fine, right? She needs
Come
a
home,
little.
she's huddled in a corner, just shaking
She
back
needs a
and
little
forth.
experience in her life, right? She just needs that experience in her life. If anything does happen, your sister lives like a couple miles away. She could just walk there, and then that opened up a whole nother can of worms. Like, oh, what if they're not home there? How's she gonna get there? I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm done. I'm done with this conversation.
Yeah. Yep.
You wouldn't think that.
All right.
Oh gosh, see, this is why my wife just texted me. You're reading her mind.
Yeah. See, I know. It's okay. I'm sure our wives are gonna have a great time on this trip, and they're gonna talk about how annoying we are, and then they're gonna want to do a podcast with us because they want to give their insight on everything, which is gonna happen, ladies. So I'm just letting you know right now. We're gonna have you
She
on.
refuses. My wife's like, I'm not getting on the podcast. I'm like, you will.
She says that until my wife's like, hey, get on a podcast with us. And then all the girls will start talking. And then they'll be like, okay, here's how the guys stress us out.
With all of our doom and gloom.
Yeah. I don't want you coming to bed and talking doom and gloom. All right. Just go to sleep.
I just learned not to talk too much about the doom and gloom with her.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. So what's going on like with Russia and Ukraine and that whole thing and the amped up talk about, Putin's got to win Ukraine. If he doesn't, it's World War III. It's nuke time. I don't.
They've been saying that for a while though.
But
yes, it is
been.
ramping up continually.
Yeah, they have been. This whole Bakhmut thing that's going on over there right now. I think it's a big deal. Canadian Prepper is just, he's being him
every day.
Every
I just
day.
watched a little bit of his content today too, and I got like 5 minutes in. I'm like, I gotta take a break. It's just a little bit, which everybody has to keep in mind. If you're watching this podcast or listening to this podcast, if you're watching it on Facebook or YouTube or whatever, if you get stressed out real easily, that's okay. You don't have to stay and watch. You can come back at another time and listen to it. That's the great thing about podcasts. But you don't have to be in the right mindset if you're listening and you're like, you know what, there's enough stress going on right now, I don't really want to listen to this. That's okay. That's the whole point of it. And everybody has their moments. And sometimes you want to pick it up. Sometimes it's like a week. There's times where JT and I will, take a break, a week, 2 weeks, not follow up on anything. And then it's like, okay, I got to get back into the things because it's been 2 weeks now. I have no clue what's going on. So anyways, it's good to know that you're not alone out there.
It's good to stay informed. We talk about staying informed, but yeah, there are times you just need to I need a break. We say that we try to podcast 3 times a week. I don't think there's been a week where we've done 3 consecutive podcasts in a week because life gets in the way. We're busy. And then sometimes it's just like, I just can't. I need to veg. And
I think we did it one time. One time, like 3 days back to back. And then from there it kind of, but we're still learning it. You're using certain tools that I've never used yet. I go to start it up. None of my sound works because you normally run the sound. So it's a learning exercise. We're getting
that's another thing, right? Okay, this is a good point that my wife did bring up, and I thought about this a little bit deeper. Was as you're planning for trips, like for our daughter staying here, we do have a sitter that's going to check in on her and come and stay with her and all that stuff. But then from a prepping perspective, and a lot of people don't do this. Like, what happens if our plane crashes and we die, right? How do you have those conversations with the family members? Like, hey, if something happens, like a solar flare, because a lot of our family, yours and mine, probably already thinks we're nuts because we do all this stuff. But then when it actually comes down to, okay, we're actually trying to have a life and take a trip, but also in the back of our minds, we're thinking, okay, what happens if that X10 solar flare comes and, technology gets wiped out? How do you have those conversations with the family going, hey, if a solar flare comes, will you come get our daughter? And here are the signs that you'll know. How do you have that without them going, you're freaking nuts, dude?
I was on mute. Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's difficult. I just, I've been bringing up solar flares over probably the last few weeks now to certain family members when I don't normally talk about them at all. And they're just now starting to question, what is a solar flare? What does it do? How does it affect things? And I start getting into that conversations. I'm like, this dude is crazy.
Right.
Yeah, it's difficult. I think I try to keep it very generic, where we've talked to people ahead of time for our will, who's in charge of the kids if we pass away, if we have redundancies on the redundancies. So here's the person that takes care of our kids. If they're not able to physically, financially, whatever, then it goes to these people. We have all that detailed out. We have a primary contact. We've got a person that they call. They've got backups of the documents everywhere. So I keep it generic in the sense of we're no longer here.
Yeah.
Here's your plan. Instead of we're in a fiery, ball of fire crash through the sky. I don't talk about stuff like that.
Oh, gosh.
So anyways.
Oh, Nick. Do you know a guy named Nick? I don't want to say his last name.
Yes. Hey, yes. How's it going, Nick? What's this podcast? This is the Preppin Patriot podcast. So we started up a podcast. When did we start this up? It was end of last year, but with holidays and travel and all that kind of stuff. So this is ramping up. But this channel, hey, this is a good feed. So this channel for Preppin Patriot podcast is just to help people stay more prepared. We're trying to get people to understand the basics, how to store things like water and food, how to preserve, how to, for emergency case scenarios, if we're, if you have a tornado or you lose power, how do you deal with those different scenarios, that kind of stuff. So our whole podcast is just relating to prepping and being prepared and having a prepared mindset. Anything else you want to add to that I may have missed?
Yeah. Do you see these now? Oh, I could put these on the screen.
Yes. Yeah. Go for some more apple crisps. Okay. Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah,
I was going to get the, I need to get the armor vac or whatever that you have though.
The Avid armor? Yeah.
It's just so expensive. Aren't they like $200 or something like that?
Times that by
I don't
5.
know. Oh my gosh. See, it's
a chamber vac though. Like Avid Armor they make other vac sealers, but the Avid Armor chamber vac is the best chamber vac I've ever used in my life. And you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it, but it's going to last.
I get it.
Forever.
You don't have to sell me. I know how great it is. I've seen many, many videos on it already. And I didn't used to care about money, but we're getting pinched every day now. I feel like our money's just going off to other people nonstop. And soon enough, I'm going to have to start wheeling a whole wheelbarrow full of cash to go get a loaf of bread. I just told my wife that. So we're trying to be very conscious. We're trying to pay off the rest of our little bit of debt that we went back into. It is on the list. I do want to get one because I don't like having the fear or concern that I've got air in whatever product I have, and it's going to spoil, and I just wasted my time and money trying to freeze dry something or prepare it with canning.
Yeah.
Just spend the money, of course, Bob.
Just spend the money, man. It's worth it. It's worth it. No, but I was going to ask you, the apples you sent us, were they honey or apple crisps or honey? What is it? Apple?
Honey crisp?
Honey crisp.
Yes. Honey crisp apples
we could
with
tell
cinnamon.
The difference. We could tell the difference. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, these have to be Honey Crisp. And, but they're like the most expensive apple. So
for that, the way we get around that is we have a local apple farm here that has fields, acres. I think they've got 400 acres or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's just apples. I mean, they've got like honey, they've got bees, apples, and a few other things, but their apples, they sell the Honeycrisp apples at like a third or a fourth of the cost that you get them from the grocery stores. So that's where we go. We get a whole 10-pound bag, bring them home. Jamie makes apple pies. I cut up the extras to make freeze-dried apples with some cinnamon sprinkled all over them. Glorious.
And you don't hunt, do you?
Not yet. I want to.
See, right now I don't either. Like, I've been talking about doing it since we moved back to Wisconsin. I just haven't pulled the trigger on it. And because I'm like, well,
no pun intended.
If the world ends, I might just have to walk a couple miles up the road, and because my brother-in-law is a big hunter. He shoots like 12 deer a year. He's got so much freaking meat. I don't even know how he eats all of it. He gives a lot of it away too. But that's another skill set that I'm like, I need to add that to my repertoire of preps is learning how to hunt. Because when that stuff, I mean, even now it's worth it because, as food costs and all that are going up, like, if I were to have hunted this past year and got 3 or 4 deer or whatever, like I wouldn't really have to really worry about meat. Like all the meat that I got from him so far, like all the ground stuff, dude, that has gone into so much venison chili that has been freeze dried. And it's not even funny. Like the amount of venison chili we have just from hunting, just from game is like so good.
And the cost, if you look at the cost of it, it's your time and then have a process. If you don't know how to process it, it's not that much. Like if you were to go and pay for a cow or a pig or chickens or whatever, or just go to the store and buy it, you're saving a bunch of money by just getting that deer yourself. Yeah. But there's a podcast. It went out to YouTube for was that Wednesday or Monday? Monday is when I recorded that. So you can see it on there, but it's all about knowledge, and where I talked about knowledge is key you can watch as many videos on YouTube as you want. You can read as many things in a book about how to do things, but until you actually do it or perform the task, you're not going to learn how to officially do it. You're going to miss certain things here or get into a moment where like you're having to skin a deer or something like that. And you're like, this is disgusting. This smells bad, whatever the case may be. So you could say, oh yeah, when it comes time, I'll be able to hunt deer, no problem. And skin it and stuff. But a whole lot different process when you actually go do it. Like, you know, the consciousness of I'm killing a creature. Am I okay with that? You know, that's all stuff that you won't know until you get into that situation.
Yeah.
So.
No, that makes sense. We got off on a little bit of a tangent
we
from
did.
our main topic.
We did. So,
but that's okay. That's okay. See, I think once we grow more than what we are, and we start getting, this is why I want to do live streams too, because occasionally you have the interaction with, now everybody that have commented has been from my family, but that's okay. But it creates that engagement that I really like. I'm more of an engagement person, to engage somebody over a stream and talk and have a conversation kind of ad hoc than to read from a script.
Agreed. And you and I started this at our work, where we started up a emergency preparedness channel where all we were doing is coming up with topics each week to focus on. Like, hey, let's focus on water for the week. Do you feel like you, as in like the people we work with, are prepared with water? Do you have enough saved up? Do you know how much it takes per person per day to, continue to survive? So
yeah,
I like the engagement as well, because it really gets people to start thinking like, oh shoot, how much food do I have in my house that can keep me alive? Or do I have a way of filtering out my water? Like, hey, this big oil spill just took place from the train derailment. Do I have any way of filtering out that water so I don't drink those chemicals? Some people think about that. Some people don't think about that.
Yeah. And if that happens, in your town, in a town near you, do you want to even try to filter that water out? Because I personally wouldn't.
Yeah.
Like, even if, as much of a prepper as I am, because I have a stock of water, I have enough to, the three of us can live on for like 6 months. Like, I'd be drinking that and not going out with my life straw, sucking out river water.
Yeah. Well, and that doesn't even help it. So it's those kind of times where you're like, oh, that doesn't actually get those chemicals out. Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Oh, are you looking?
Sorry, I was just looking at the comments. Yeah, I was looking at the comments inside the Ecamm chat, so I hadn't seen those yet. So that's cool that it pulls that in from all the different platforms.
Yeah, I think the only one it doesn't pull it in from is YouTube, because I wasn't able to directly log in, because I am just because I'm not the primary account holder. It didn't bring it up for some reason. So like, I had to do the manual stream key and stuff out to it, which doesn't pull any of that stuff in. So if we were to want that in the future, I would need to directly log in as like the admin of the account in order to do that. So we can chat about that offline.
Sure.
If we need to.
So let's go back to the travel side then. So we talked about awareness of our areas, awareness of just everything. What's your second point?
Staying informed, having awareness. We talked about packing, the stuff to bring, the extra stuff to bring, having an overall plan, which you hit on, having a plan and writing that plan out and having itineraries and things like that to give to people. And then being flexible, like as you're doing all of your, staying informed, looking at things, researching what's going on while you're going to be gone, have the flexibility that your plan changes. So again, if we look at space weather news and we see an X10 just went off, we know that in about 3 days the CME is going to be here. We may not want to take that trip if that happened. So just be flexible, definitely. Or be prepared to do audibles, either en route or when you're there. Just be prepared to like call some audibles on the field. You never know. The audibles may turn into an adventure themselves. Who knows? So those are the couple things that I thought about as we're talking about prepping for travel. That's not in a car; it's on a plane.
Yeah. Well, good. So I think we covered everything then. Any other tips that you have from a packing perspective? you brought up earlier, like I try to roll everything up. We pack everything into a carry-on. You brought up a point of like food, packing food. We do carry snacks, candies, that kind of stuff. Oh, what did Brian say here? Right. Air Force Base, Montana.
Wait, Brian Marshall. This isn't the Brian Marshall I grew up with.
Okay.
It can't be. No, it is. What's up, man? Dude, this guy, oh, I'm sorry. I got to get off this. This guy was like my best friend in high school. Like him and I were just, it was me, Brian, David Yost. Like we had like our posse, our boys. And then I joined the Air Force, and it's that whole story, right? You get out of high school, your lives just kind of diverge, and you just never you never reconnect with anybody. You know, you don't. Yeah. That's exactly what happened with me and Brian. Like we were boys, and then I was shipped off to Montana, and that's why he referenced Montana, I think. So I was shipped off to Montana. I was a nuclear missile technician in Montana. So I worked on the ICBMs, and I was out at the missile silos and all that stuff. So I know what they're capable of because I was the one maintaining them. And we just lost touch and just never got back in touch, man.
Well,
dude,
welcome back to the chat, Brian.
We connect on a on a live podcast. That's cool. I'll hit you up later, bro. I know I forget everything. I'm horrible. I'm absolutely horrible. I do forget everything. I still do. I forgot it. Like when I was a kid, I forget. Like short-term memory sucks. It's all good though.
Well, I can't think of anything else for this trip that, I mean, like I said, I might do like a part 2 on, my wife's been doing a lot of great content for us when it comes to like freeze dried stuff. Yeah. I think we'll probably do a little Instagram, whatever reel, YouTube, whatever. I'm not big into the social stuff, Facebook reel. But we might put like, here's everything we're packing, you know, here's our clothes, whatever that fits into a nice little carry-on. When it comes to our backpacks, here's our emergency items that we pack, our food items, our sugars, our medical supplies. So I'll probably do something and put something together for that, just to put it out there for other people to see. Because my wife always tells people we're just packing and carry-on, and they don't believe her. Like, how can you fit a week's worth of supplies into one carry-on? Because we have friends that take 2 full suitcases with them on these trips, and check 2 full suitcases, and that's just crazy to me.
Yeah, that's nuts. Because I don't even know, what are they getting you for check bag fees now? I mean, there's the advertised price, and then there's all the fees they add at the counter. So your $35 check bag becomes a $135 check bag.
Yeah, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it's like $50 or $60 now to check a bag. So, and that's if you're not going to put the insurance on it. So if your stuff gets lost or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, that makes sense. But, well, in all of that, you know, we talk about, you know, all this stuff about prepping and planning for travel and all the doom and gloom sometimes we get on tangents on. But at the end of the day, you know, just you don't forget to enjoy yourself. You know, have a life, definitely. Like be happy. I mean, that's really all I can say about that is like, as we go through, we plan and we talk about all these things with what could potentially happen in our world with all the crap that's going on, political, geopolitical, wars, solar flares, you know, EMP devices, balloons overhead, you know, all this stuff that we could talk about. A lot of it seems doom and gloom, but we don't talk about it to be doom and gloom. It's more of, hey, we just want to prepare for it. Because preparedness is like, it's just another insurance policy, because stuff happens that's outside of our control, and you just never know. It's better to just prepare and never have to use your preps than to not prepare and be stuck if something major were to ever happen. So these are just some of the things that we talk through and we go through. So yeah, cool.
Living insurance. That's what I always call it. You know, you pay for so much for life and death insurance, disability, long-term, short-term, but nobody ever prepares for living insurance of just continuing to stay alive. So anyways, well, cool. I think it's good. You had something for wrapping up, right?
Yeah, we can do the wrap here. That'll about do it. yeah, I think we've exhausted all of our things we want to talk about this stuff. So yeah, we can go into the wrap. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Oh, you know what? We will do the wrap here, but we will do it after I unmute Stream Deck because we didn't want that stuff going on. Okay, so remember, guys, whether you're traveling to the ends of the earth or just exploring your own backyard, the key is to stay curious, stay safe, and stay open to new experience. So go ahead, book that plane ticket, pack your bags, and get ready to see the world with fresh eyes. And if you ever find yourself feeling overwhelmed or unsure, just remember, you got this. Until next time, fellow travelers, safe travels and bon voyage.
Thank you for listening to the Preppin Patriots podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a 5-star review. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can do so at contact@preppinpatriots.stream. And finally, this episode was sponsored by nobody.